So one of my favorite areas and one of the least visited expedition areas is the Russian Far East. So when we got the Silver Discoverer, the first region that I thought of operating with that ship is the Russian Far East. It is one of the most diverse areas that we operate. And the diversity is not only the wildlife, but it's the scenery and it's the different cultures that we encounter. You know, the Russian Far East, or Siberia, Kamchatka, Kuril Islands, Sakhalin, it's a vast area, and we operate June through till end of August, beginning of September in the area. It's visiting places like Kamchatka, the peninsula, as well as North Kamchatka, the Kuril Islands, Sakhalin, and the Sea of Okhotsk. We go to the Aleutian chain on the American side, the Alaskan peninsula, and all the way up to Chukotka and around into the Chukchi Sea. To get to these places, not as difficult as you would imagine. You know, we fly into places like Otaro or Hakodate in Japan, or Nome, Alaska, and those are the starting and end points for us, as well as Anchorage in Alaska on these expeditions. But it really is the diversity that attracts me to the Russian Far East. You know, from the Koryak people, the Chukchi people that we encounter at villages like Mainapolgino village or Uelen village, where we encounter the subsistence hunters. You know, the other day we came up to Uelen village, and we were the first ship to visit the village in probably about 4 or 5 years. And as we were being welcomed by the locals, the hunters came back from their summer hunt with walrus. And one would think it's not something you want to show people. However, it's so part of the experience, it's life. And it was a fascinating look into the life of these communities that we get to visit. But on the other side of the spectrum, the Russian Far East is also more commonly known as Siberia. And this is where, if you think back and what you know of Siberia, you think back of it, and this is where the Russians sent their soldiers. To this day, there's a huge Western Russian community in places like Providenie or Petropavlovsk or Nikolskoye village on Commander Island. And we also get to meet those people and to see how their Russian culture, their Orthodox culture, has very much survived in these harsh conditions and how they've been integrated into this environment. I absolutely love the wildlife. Very few places on earth will give you the diversity in terms of wildlife than the Russian Far East. You know, it is from the 250 different bird species, many of which are completely endemic. You know, you think of this McKay's bunting on St. Matthew Island, only about 200 birds left on this tiny island in the middle of the Bering Sea, not to be found anywhere else on our planet. And it is kind of cool when you get onto St. Matthew's Island and you're looking at this bird and you know that you're one of a handful of people ever to see this little bird. You know, to go on a Zodiac and be amongst 2,000-3,000 walrus, or see 1,000-1,500 walrus hauled out on a beach, to see a pod of grey whales cleaning themselves in the shallows offshore, it is very, very special. To be able to drop our Zodiacs and to go play with humpback whales breaching off Atlasova Island, or to see a pod of 100-150 orcas and just having the captain skillfully maneuver the Silver Discoverer and following these whales without being intrusive and just being part of their existence. It's something that you can't describe, and it's something that you will not find anywhere else than the Russian Far East. It also offers us a great opportunity for hiking. Many of the destinations that we visit are getting more restricted and restrictive in what we can do at these destinations. It's very difficult to get the permits to go to the Russian Far East, and it takes us anything from a year to 18 months to get our permits, because where we operate are military restricted zones. And less than 500 people a year will get to go to these destinations, which are completely uninhabited. And often we are hundreds of miles away from the nearest population. And therefore we can do, once we have the permits, we can do whatever we want to. There is nobody else there. There are no other ships out there. It's just us and nature. And therefore we can just pull into a bay and drop the Zodiacs and take people ashore and go on hikes, whether it's a short 1-hour hike or a longer cross-peninsula 15-20 kilometer hike. These are the kind of experiences that we can have. One of my favorite things to do in the Russian Far East is just to go into a fjord in the evening because the distances allow for it. Just drop the anchor, gather driftwood and take all our guests ashore and create bonfires on the beach, take some red wine ashore and just spend the evening watching the sunset 10, 11 o'clock at night and just being together in this very remote part of the world and just enjoying each other's company. Also, the zodiac cruising opportunities that the Russian Far East gives us is so unique. The geology of the Russian Far East, of course, this is the part of the Pacific Rim of volcanic rim, and it's a very geologically active area, and you can clearly see the evidence of this geological activity during our zodiac cruises. But also the time of the year that we operate in the Russian Far East is the time of the bird migration. It's the summer bird migration and the breeding season. So you have literally hundreds and thousands of different birds, 250 different species in the Russian Far East. We get to see two different puffin species, the tufted and the horned puffin. The bigger birds such as the bald eagle or the Steller sea eagle, magnificent animals that we get to see in their natural environment. Of course, the prize is to see the Kamchatka brown bear or brown bears on the Alaskan side, the grizzlies. And we do get to see them. We get to see them in large numbers. This is the perfect time of the year that we operate to see these bears. This is where the salmon run is starting. By the summer, the bears are coming down to the shoreline and they feed in order to get fat enough to survive the hibernation. But it really is a unique environment and every single day is different and it's completely unstructured. And that is what I absolutely love. And should you travel on the Silver Discoverer with us to the Russian Far East, this is what you can expect.